We got lazy. Somewhere between the drive-thru and the frozen waffle, we forgot how to make breakfast. Our grandparents woke up before the sun, walked into their kitchen, and made something real with their hands every single morning. These 25 things took time, skill, and effort. That's exactly why nobody makes them anymore. Number 1. Sawmill gravy from scratch. Not from a packet. Not from a jar. From scratch, the way it was always meant to be made, starting with nothing but a hot pan and a little sausage and 20 minutes of patience. You brown your sausage, break it up fine, and when it's cooked through you leave every drop of fat in that pan and sprinkle in flour and stir it constantly until the flour cooks in the fat and turns just slightly golden and smells nutty and rich. Then you pour in whole milk slowly, not all at once, a little at a time. Stirring without stopping as the gravy thickens and turns from pale and thin into something thick and creamy and flecked with sausage and black pepper. The whole process takes maybe 15 minutes and requires your full attention the entire time. You cannot walk away. You cannot check your phone. You have to stand at that stove and stir and pay attention, and that is exactly why nobody makes it anymore. We don't want to stand still for 15 minutes. Our grandparents did it every single morning before 6 o'clock, and the result was something so good that people drove miles to eat it at somebody's grandmother's table. Number 2. Hand-rolled biscuits. Not the kind that come in a tube that you whack against the counter. Not frozen. Not from a mix. Hand-rolled biscuits made from flour and lard and cold buttermilk, mixed by hand with a light touch, because overworking the dough is the one mistake that ruins everything. You cut the lard into the flour with your fingertips until it looks like coarse crumbs, make a well in the center, pour in cold buttermilk, and fold it together just until it comes together, no more. You pat it out gently on a floured surface, cut the biscuits with the rim of a glass, and bake them in a screaming hot oven until they rise tall and golden and split along the middle in that perfect line that tells you the layers are right. It takes practice. It takes failure. It takes making bad biscuits for a year before you make good ones. Our grandmothers had that practice and those failures behind them, and their biscuits were extraordinary. We skipped the practice and bought the tube and called it close enough. It is not close enough. It is not even in the same category. Number 3. Kush. Nobody under 60 has heard of kush, and that is a genuine cultural loss. You take leftover cornbread, crumbled completely fine, and fry it in a cast iron skillet in bacon grease, stirring and pressing it around the pan until every crumb has absorbed some fat and gone slightly crispy and golden throughout. Some people added diced onion cooked until soft. Some stirred in a beaten egg at the end. Some ate it plain with just salt and heavy black pepper. The result is something that is completely unlike the original cornbread, denser, crispier, richer, more savory. Made entirely from scraps that we today would throw in the trash without thinking. Making kush requires leftover cornbread, which means you have to have made cornbread from scratch the day before, which means it requires 2 days of cooking just to produce one breakfast. That is why nobody makes it anymore. Our grandparents thought in days. We think in minutes. Number 4. Rendered lard. This is not a dish. It is an ingredient and a process. One that our grandparents did as a matter of routine and that we have almost entirely abandoned in favor of vegetable oil from a plastic bottle. You take raw pork fat, fatback or leaf lard, cut it into small pieces, put it in a heavy pot over very low heat, and let it render slowly for hours, stirring occasionally, until all the fat has melted out and what remains are golden crispy cracklings floating in pure white liquid fat. You strain out the cracklings, pour the fat into jars, and let it cool into lard that is better for frying and baking than anything in any grocery store. The cracklings you save for cracklin' bread or egg scrambles. Nothing is wasted. The whole process takes half a day of low heat and occasional attention. Nobody does this anymore. We buy refined vegetable oil and we have forgotten what food cooked in real lard actually tastes like, and that is one of the greater unacknowledged losses of modern American cooking. Number 5. Fried salt mackerel. You had to think about this one the night before. That is the first reason nobody makes it anymore. It requires planning. You take salt mackerel packed in brine, rinse it, and soak it in cold water overnight to draw out enough salt to make it edible. In the morning you drain it, pat it dry, and fry it in a hot cast iron skillet until it's golden and slightly crispy and the whole house fills with a smell that is strong and specific and completely unforgettable. Served alongside fried potatoes or grits, it was a complete high-protein breakfast that cost almost nothing and kept working people fueled all morning. The overnight soak is what kills this recipe in the modern kitchen. We don't plan breakfast the night before. We don't plan breakfast at all. We decide what we're eating when we're already hungry, and that is exactly why we end up in a drive-thru. Number 6. Liver mush. Pork liver ground and cooked with cornmeal into a firm loaf that you slice and fry until crispy. This is liver mush, and it is still eaten every morning in the Carolinas by people who know exactly how good it is and refuse to apologize for it. The rest of the country moved on when organ meats fell out of fashion and processed breakfast meats took over, but the people who kept eating liver mush kept something real and honest that the rest of us traded away for a sausage patty made in a factory. Making it from scratch requires sourcing fresh pork liver, grinding it or having it ground, cooking it with cornmeal and seasoning into a paste that you pack into a loaf pan and refrigerate until firm. It takes several hours and real commitment. Our grandparents made it in big batches during hog butchering season and ate it all winter. We don't butcher hogs and we don't make liver mush, and we are worse off for both. Number 7. Sweet potato biscuits. Everything that applies to regular hand-rolled biscuits applies here, plus the additional step of roasting or boiling sweet potatoes the day before, mashing them smooth, and working them into the dough in place of some of the liquid. The sweet potato gives the biscuits a golden color and a slight natural sweetness and a density and moisture that regular biscuits don't have, and they pair extraordinarily well with salty country ham or sharp cheddar or just plain butter. They are more complex to make than regular biscuits, require forethought, and the dough handles differently and needs more experience to get right. Our grandmothers made these without a recipe because the recipe lived in their hands. We would need to look it up, fail twice, and probably give up on the third attempt. They never gave up because giving up meant no breakfast. Number 8. Souse meat. Head cheese. Souse. Whatever you call it in your part of the country, this is the breakfast food that represents the absolute apex of the philosophy of wasting nothing. You take the parts of the pig that nobody wanted, the head, the feet, the ears, the skin, and you simmer them low and slow for hours until every bit of meat has fallen from every bone and the broth has become thick with natural gelatin. You pick the meat from the bones carefully, season everything with vinegar and black pepper and spices, pack it tightly into a loaf pan, and refrigerate it until it sets firm in its own gelatin. Then you slice it thin and eat it cold on cornbread or fry it briefly in a hot pan. This takes an entire day to make. It requires a relationship with a butcher who can get you a pig's head. It requires comfort with parts of an animal that most modern cooks have never touched. Our grandparents were comfortable because they had no choice and because nothing, not one scrap, was allowed to go to waste. We are not comfortable and so we don't make it, and we throw away more food in a week than they wasted in a year. Number 9. Stone ground grits cooked properly. Not instant. Not quick cook. Stone ground grits that take 45 minutes to an hour of slow cooking with constant attention, stirring regularly so they don't stick and scorch, adding liquid as they absorb it, tasting and seasoning as they go. The difference between instant grits and properly cooked stone ground grits is the difference between a photograph of a meal and the meal itself. Real grits have texture and depth and a corn flavor that is complex and earthy and completely absent from the instant version. They require standing at a stove for the better part of an hour doing nothing but stirring and tasting and adjusting. Our grandmothers did this every morning. They started the grits first, before anything else, because they knew everything else could wait, but the grits needed time. We don't give breakfast time anymore. We give it 3 minutes in a microwave and wonder why it doesn't taste like anything.